Um, this is Har 1 by Yasha Allah of the Lions Den Camp. I want to say Kal Halayim La Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai by Hashem Harakah Kodash Ma'amath. Double honor to the elder apostles of GMS and the elders. Shalom to you Akim and Akwatim and children that believe in sincerity and truth around the four corners of the earth. The topic I want to go into today is going to be dealing with the first, what you would know as the first war, or the first biblical war or regional war during the early second millennium, dealing with the War of the Nine Kings, all right? The War of the Nine Kings. But before I get into it and show how the Lord delivers the faithful, all right, out of from being confounded or damned, same way the Lord delivered Abraham, the enemies into his hand, and Abraham raised up 318 men to go to war with these nations, and he won. And he had to be using, the Lord had to give him some type of spiritual ability or help from the angels to win this war. Now, and also he delivered Lot from Sodom and Gomorrah and out of the hand of the kings of Mesopotamia. The same way the Lord is going to deliver the faithful out of the coming destruction. The same type of judgment that came upon Sodom and Gomorrah, fire and brimstone. But before that, there was a civil war and a war. Just like now in these times, it's going to be a civil war, and it's going to be a World War III, the last wars. All right, and the Lord's going to deliver what you would call His elect. Now I'm gonna get something real quick. Wow. So I want to look up this word Lot real quick, because he also delivered Lot. And today, the Lot would be what? The one that he's covering. That's what the word Lot means. Lawat. All right. It means covering. Okay. This was Abraham's nephew. So it says, son of Haran and Abraham's nephew, who settled in Sodom and was delivered from its destruction by Yahweh. All right. And was delivered from the destruction by Yahweh. And the same thing goes for the elect today. They're the ones that's covered with the spirit of Yahushua. All right. The covering of truth and of salvation. So Abraham's brother named Haran, which lived in the land of Syria, he would be called the father of Lot, right? And that's important. And that's important when it comes to Deuteronomy, I think 23 and 7, if I'm not mistaken, where it speaks about hate not an Edom, thou shalt not abhor an Edomite. Right there, it's supposed to say Aramaean, which those represent the children of Haran. All right, so if that helps with that topic. Now let's get into the story. But first, this is Sirach 2 and 10. Look at the generations of old. And that's why I like to bring the scripture out before I go into the history, all right, of how the Lord delivered our people, the faithful. So look into the generations of old and see, did ever any trust in the Lord and was confounded? So were they ever damned? You know, no, they weren't damned or condemned with the wicked. Or did any abide in his fear and was forsaken? All right, because Abraham was the only one out of his family that trusted in Yahweh Shem Yahushua, or Yahweh at that time. You know, and Yahweh sent Yahushua to him. All right, first as Melchizedek, and then again when he was about to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. All right, that was Yahushua dealing with Abraham. As the scriptures say that Yahweh Shai said it, he said, before Abraham was, I am. Not saying that he was the most high, like vocab like to say. No. Before Abraham was, Yahweh Shai existed. He created all things, man. In the book of Colossians. And that says, or did any abide in his fear and was forsaken? And that's what we abide in. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. So we abide in his wisdom. And whom did he ever despise that called upon him? Right? For the Lord is full of compassion and mercy and long suffering and very pitiful. All right. So he gives pity. Yeah, he's full of pity for the ignorant, which would be us. And forgiveth sins and saveth in time of affliction, man. So the Lord is going to save in the times of these afflictions today. All right. So let's get into the story. All right. So this story begins in the early second millennium. All right. So it was Abraham was born around 2166 BCE. And he would have been about 75 when Terah died. So Terah was, about 130 when he died. All right. Or 105. So now, right. So let me keep going. It says here, so basically Abraham was over 70 something years old, 75 years old, man. And then he went into Egypt. All right. After he came out, I think Bethel, he went into Egypt for a little bit of time. And then you get over to chapter 13 is when he left out of Egypt, right? And he started going towards the land of the Canaanites. So now that's the story we're going to read about. But within those lands that he was journeying, you can read it from Genesis. I'm not going to read it right now because it's too long. Genesis 11, when Sodom was that Tower of Babel was destroyed. Then you go all the way up to chapter 13, you read that, and it gave a full context understanding of the story, how it led up to the battle of Siddim. That's what it was called, the Battle of Siddim, or the battle around the Salt Sea. All right. So the veil is called the Battle of the Veil of Siddim. All right, the battle of the 5 Canaanite, Hamite nations versus the Persian nations, which was ran by Kedar Laomer, which was of Mesopotamia. All right. So now, so let's get into it. All right. So let's get a little bit of the context. I want to show that in these places, Abraham was calling upon Yahweh's name. All right. The name of Yahweh wasn't given yet. So here you go. Genesis 12 and 12 and 8. And he removed from thence unto a mountain in the east of Bethel, as I was speaking of earlier, and pitched his tent, having Bethel on the west and Hai on the east. And there he builded an altar unto Yahweh, and called upon the name of Yahweh. See, he called on the name of the Lord, so he knew the Lord's name. And Abraham journeyed going on still toward the south. All right, and that's when he went into Egypt. We go to chapter 13 and 1. And Abraham went up out of Egypt, he and his wife and all that he had, and Lot with him. That's important. Into the south. And Abraham was very rich in cattle, in silver, and in gold. All right, that was considered riches. That's true riches. You know, Esau is giving out today is funny money. Everybody supposed to have their own land or their own cattle. But you gotta go to the store and get. That's what scripture say. We're gonna go to them for the want of all things. All right, so that's right. And he went on his journey from the south even to Bethel unto the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Hai, unto the place of the altar which he had made there at the first, right? That's the place the Lord promised to give to us. And there Abraham called on the name of Yahweh, and Lot also, which went with Abraham's flocks and herds and tents, and the land was not able to bear them. Man, that's how much wealth Abraham had. Imagine that. Imagine picturing that like a movie, or you was able to see that from a drone view, sky level, looking down at this massive, I don't know, man, wealthy man and his people and his sheep and oxen and gold and silver and tents and servants, but without a place to call home or a kingdom, you know. So that's why the Lord had Abraham seek a land, a righteous place to serve Yahweh. All right. So just like us today, we seek a righteous place, a new heaven and a new earth. It says, and the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together. So they had to what? They had to split the substance. For their substance was great, so that they could not dwell together. All right. So Lot and Abraham was so rich in wealth because of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. That's why, the Lord said, what? He know how to make somebody rich, and he know how to make somebody poor. All right. The Lord that maketh rich. So they had so much that the land couldn't bear Lot and Abraham's wealth and their party that was with them. So they had to separate. All right. So it says, and the land was not able to bear them. Verse 7, and there was a strife between the herdmen of Abraham's cattle and the herdmen of Lot's cattle. So they started fighting amongst each other. Not Abraham and Lot, but the people that was with them. And the Canaanite and the Perizzite dwelled in the land. All right, them damn Hamites. And Abraham said unto Lot, let there be no strife, I pray thee, between me and thee, and between my herdmen and thy herdmen, for we are brethren. All right? You see that? So now, I'm going to get one more part of this context. There you go. Is not the whole land before thee? Separate thyself, I pray thee, from me. So he told Lot to go over to separate himself from Abraham. If thou wilt take the left hand, then I will go to the right. Or if thou depart to the right, then I will go to the left. Basically, Abraham saying it didn't matter. Like, you want to stay over here, I can stay over here. It was ultimately the choice was up to the Most High, according to prophecy. That, as you can see, right? He led Abraham to be taken of them Mesopotamian kings, so that the Lord could use Abraham to destroy those kings, and ultimately following to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah with fire. So this was already in the Most High's intention. All right. So it says, and Lot lifted up his eyes and beheld all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, even as the garden of Yahweh, like the land of Egypt, as thou comest unto Zoar. Then Lot chose him all the plains of Jordan, and Lot journeyed east, and they separated themselves one from another. All right. Abraham dwelled in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelled in the cities of the plain, and that's where the Hamites were staying at. But the kings of Mesopotamia were ruling over these Canaanite nations. All right, had them in subjection. So Lot moved into that area, and he looked just like them. So they went in there and took him. All right, during the invasion. And Lot dwelled in the cities of the plain and pitched his tent towards Sodom. But the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before Yahweh exceedingly. They were wicked, man. And, and you had, where is it at? Some of our people living up in there as well. Now, just like the Egyptians said it, he said, I and our people are wicked. Damn Hamites, man. Where was that? Verse 14, and Yahweh said unto Abraham, after southward and east, after that Lot was separated from him, lift up thine eyes and look from the place where thou art northward, and southward and eastward and westward. For all the land which thou seest, to thee will I give it. Like on the Lion King, he said, all this land is yours. And to thy seed forever, and I will make thy seed as the dust of the earth, so that if a man can number the dust of the earth, then shall thy seed also be numbered. All right, and we represent that seed today. All right, arise, walk through the land in the length of it and in the breadth of it, for I will give it unto thee. Then Abraham removed his tent and came and dwelt in the plain of Mamre, which is in Hebron, and built there an altar unto Yahweh. So let's get into the next chapter. All right, this is Genesis 14 and 12. Now this is the actual battle. Now check this out. This is right before the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. All right, and the neighboring cities, except for Zoar, where Lot ran to. So it was the battle of the 9 kings. You have 4 Mesopotamian rulers, which was basically the modern day Iraq, Babylon, and Persia, in those areas. And then you have the Amorite or Canaanite nations, which were the Hamitic nations, which were five kings, all right, under the ruling nation, which was Sodom at that time, all right, ran by a Hamite named Bera. So let's get into it, man. It says, and it came to pass in the days of Amraphel, king of Shinar, king of Elasar, that Kedar Laomer, king of Elam, the Persians, and Tidal, king of nations, that's what they call this guy, king of nations. All right. That's right. Yep. Of the land of, they called it Goyim or nations. All right. Tidal. It says this, these made war with Bera, the king of Sodom, and with Bersha, king of Gomorrah, and with Shanab, king of Admah, and Shemeber, king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, which is Zoar, right? All these were joined together in the vale of Siddim. All right, just like the Lord said today, He's gonna bring all these nations down to the valley of Jehoshaphat, which would be Jehoshaphat or Yahweh-Shaphat, the place where the Lord gonna judge these armies. All right. Now it says this: 12 years they served Kedar Laomer. So these Hamitic nations, they were in subjection under the king of the Persians. All right, he was putting a heavy tax on them, and they revolted against him on the 13th year. All right, so Abraham had to be at least 80 something by this time. All these were joined together in the vale of Siddim, which is the Salt Sea. All right, so Siddim does not mean Sodom. It's just saying around the Salt Sea area. I'm gonna show you a map in a second. Just give you a visual. 12 years they served Kedar Laomer. In the 13th year, they rebelled. All right, and in the 14th year, Kedar Laomer, the Persian, and the kings that were with him, all those other nations, the Babylon, of Mesopotamia, right, Syria, and the kings that were with him, and smote the Rephaims, which was like giants, another word for giants, in Ashtaroth. All right, Karnaim and the Zuzims, and Ham, and the Emims and Shiva. All right, Kiriathim, and the Horites and their Mount Seir unto El Paran, which is by the wilderness. So, all right, so it was fighting all over that region. All right, I couldn't find a real clear map, but just to get kind of a visual, let's deal with the Mesopotamian kings first. All right, over here to the right, you have Iran, and then you have Elam, which is basically the Elamites. All right, then you have the Chaldees, which was the capital of Babylon. All right, that was his hometown where Abraham started off at. And his people were worshiping idols, so the Lord took Abraham from among them. All right, and took him on his journey. So all these kings of the east, that's what they were called, kings of the east. All right, around Nineveh, the Assyrians. So all these nations, all right, they came against this nation right here, over here, the Hamitic nations. All right, because you had Ham, the kingdom of Ham up in this area. Okay. So now let's get into it. Wait, I'm gonna show you one more map. All right, so this is a more clear map of the kings of the east. It was only 4 kings. You had the king of Elam, the kings of Babylon, Shinar, of Syria, and Assyria. All right, and that was Tidal, the king of nations. So you had the Hittite nations as well. All right, and that was today would be called modern day Turkey. And they came against these nations here, which were the Hamitic nations. All right. All right, so you see here on this map, this should be a lot clearer. You have these 4 kings: Kedar, Laomer, Amraphel of Shinar, Arioch of Elasar, Tidal of Goyim over there in Turkey. And they came down, it was called the King's Highway, Kedar, Laomer. And he went south, went around Edom, and came up, all right, all the way up to Tel Dan. And Tel Dan was the land of Dan was originally called Tel, all right? Just so don't be no confusion, because Dan wasn't around yet. So, and Abraham, which he was a Jake, he didn't look like no Edomite. He went from Hebron to cut off Kedar Laomer and his armies and meet them at Tel Dan to free Lot once he was taken. So let's get into it. All right, right here you have around the Salt Sea, around the Vale of Siddim. All right, you have those 5 neighboring nations: Zeboim, Shemeber, the king. Admah was ran by King Shinab. Bela, Zoar, we know about that when Lot ran into it after Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed. Gomorrah, which was ran by Bersha, and Sodom, which was ran by a king named Bera. All right. So now I'm gonna leave it on this picture. I'm gonna just read from my Bible, and it says here, Genesis 14. Make sure it's recording. All right. Genesis 14:1. 14:3. Well, I'll read it again so you can see clearly. 1. And it came to pass in the days of Amraphel, king of Shinar. All right. So Shinar, that would be over in Babylon. All right. That'd be more so up here past Mesopotamia at the time. And it came to pass in the days of Amraphel of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasar, Kedar Laomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of nations over there in Turkey, that these that these all made war with Bera, the king of Sodom. All right, you see Sodom right there in the middle. And with Bersha, king of Gomorrah, and with Shanab, king of Admah, and with Shemeber, king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, which is Zoar. All these were joined together in the vale of Siddim, which is called the Salt Sea. All right, so that's how you know the location. 12 years they served Kedar Laomer, and in the 13th year they rebelled. All right, so the African nations, they rebelled against the Mesopotamian kings and the king of Mesopotamia. All right, so, and in the 14th year came Kedar Laomer and the kings that were with him and smote the Rephaims, the giants. All right. You had two words for giant. You had the word Napoleon, which means the fallen ones, but in the English it say giants. All right. In this sense, you have Rephaims, which means giants, meaning they was tall, like Manu Bull. And Ashtaroth, Karnaim, and the Zuzims in Ham, and the Emims in Sheveh, Kiriathim, all right? And the Horites in their Mount Seir unto El Paran, which is by the wilderness. And they returned and came to En Mishpat, which is Kadesh, all right? So that'd be, it came over to here, Kadesh, all right, with the bottom. So they was came all the way down to here, and they went up to start the war, all right? So they came all the way from these areas in the east, and came around and went straight up. And they left nothing but pillage and destruction along the way. So that was the Lord destroying those neighboring nations, man. All right? Same way he's breaking down the foundations of America. All right? And basically the beast, NATO and Europe, the Lord's breaking all that down. You see Russia just talking about threatening to nuke Europe today. All right? So now let's keep going. And there went out the king of Sodom and the king of Gomorrah and the king of Admah and the king of Zeboim. So this is when the war began. All right, the first world war, or what you would call regional war. All right, the first biblical war. And the king of Bela, the same is Zoar, and they joined battle with them in the vale of Siddim. So they was all joining into the battle along that vale. All right, all around this area at the bottom and south. When Kedar Laomer, the king of Elam, with Kedar Laomer, the king of Elam, so they went and fought against him, and with the king with Tidal, king of the nations, and Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Elasar, and 4 kings with 5, right? And these Hamitic nations couldn't stop the Mesopotamian nations. They were getting destroyed, and they got chased into the mountains, the African nations. But the Lord raised up Abraham and only 318 men against nations. I mean, like nations of people, and he destroyed them. With 318 men just to get Lot back. Watch this. That's spirit, that's power, man. With Kedar Laomer, the king of Elam. Oh, sorry, I already read that. And the vale of Siddim was full of slime pits, right? These Mesopotamian kings chased these African kings into the slime pits, and those slime pits are there till this day. All right, these are called the slime pits of Siddim, and this is the type of stuff that helped me get into the truth. It was finding artifacts and just proof that they existed. All right, and now so you had the slime pits, and they chased them into this. All right, and this stuff is really there to this day. All right, let's go back right here. Look at that, big giant pits. They running and fighting, and they falling into these slime pits. A lot of them empty, some of them full of tar still. Right around the Dead Sea. So you can do your research on that. All right. You can look at this one. It says, discovered slime pits as told in Genesis 14, verse 10. The vale of Siddim was full of slime pits. There you go. All right. See it for yourself, man. Proof is in the pudding. You know, idiots don't believe out here, man. All right. So this is our job. This is 1 Thessalonians 5:21. Prove all things, hold that fast which is good. So our job is to prove everything according to the scriptures. All right, so let's get back to the story. Okay, now, yeah, Genesis 14:10. And the vale of Siddim was full of slime pits, all right, right around the Salt Sea. And the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled and fell there. See, that's where they got destroyed at. And they that remained fled to the mountains. All right. And they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah. So the Mesopotamian Persian kings, they all took spoils from these Africans. All right. Now, and they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their victuals and went their way, man. So this place was broken down, Sodom and Gomorrah, just like America. That's why the Lord said he left Sodom and Gomorrah as an example of what's to come today. Not only through the fire, but also through how the Lord brought that place down before he destroyed it. All right. And they looked and they took Lot. See, that's what they messed up at. See, that's why the Lord said that. This is Isaiah 59:19. So shall they fear the name of the Lord, Yahweh, from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. All right. When the enemy shall come in like a flood, just like they did during the time of Lot, the spirit of Yahweh shall lift up a standard against them. See that? So just like today, when Esau comes rushing in like a flood to touch the faithful that's moving in the same spirit of Abraham by faith, right? The Lord gonna lift up a standard. All right. So now, we'll keep going. It says here, where was that? Verse 12. And they took Lot, Abraham's brother's son, so it was a nephew, who dwelled in Sodom. Make sure it's recorded. All right. And dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed. And there came one that had escaped and told Abraham. So one of Abraham's Lot's servants, ran to Abraham, all right, and told him. And this is what you have called the Hyksos, all right? If you look up the Hyksos, that was Abraham's people. They weren't called Israelites yet. It was called God's people. Now it says, and there came one that had escaped and told Abraham, the Hebrew, see, they were called Hebrews, all right? For he dwelt in the plain of Mamre. Okay, so they were called Hebrews at the time, meaning descended from Ibar, all right? Speaking the proper Hebrew the same way. For he dwelt in the plain of Mamre, the Amorite, all right? And it says, the brother of Eshcol and the brother of Aner, and these were confederate with Abraham. So Abraham was dwelling amongst some other people in another land. So he was about to go from there over there near Hebron. And he went up to meet these Mesopotamian kings as they done took Lot, right? He dwelt in Sodom. Where was Sodom at? So once they hit Sodom, they took Lot right here. And then when they got to Emim or Shavah Kiriathaim, that's when Abraham met him and started fighting with him all the way up until the Tel Dan, okay? Or Ashtaroth, So they went after all these nations, and by the time they got here, that's when they ran into Abraham. Boom. He was fighting all of them. All right? So it says this. And when Abraham heard that his brother was taken captive, Lot was his brother in the faith, he armed his trained servants. All right? So he instructed them. And servants born in his own house, 318, and pursued them unto Dan. All right, which was really called Tel, all right, Tel, what they call Tel Dan. So he pursued them all the way up, from here all the way up to find Lot. He was looking for Lot and his family. That's how Yahushua gonna send his angels out, in the same spirit that Abraham was in, to deliver us. So no. It says, verse 15, and he divided himself against them. Wow, man, it's like guerrilla warfare. He divided himself. He flanked them. He and his servants by night. They were nighttime. Like Navy SEALs, man. So they were moving at night, going to war with these Mesopotamian kings, plucking them off. 318 men taking down 4 nations, man. By the power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. All right. It says this, verse 15. And he divided himself against them, he and his servants by night, and smote them. Right? And pursued them unto Hobah, which is on the left hand of Damascus. All right. And he brought back all the goods, and also brought again his brother Lot, and his goods, and the women also, and the people. And that's what the Lord gonna do. He's gonna deliver each one of the elect, ultimately, that are alive, and the ones that die in the faith. Right? He's not gonna lose any. The men, women, and children that believe on the name of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, and that call on him in sincerity. Now, so he brought everything back, and the king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return from the slaughter of Kedar Laomer and of the kings that were with him. See, those Hamites were losing the battle until Abraham got involved. And when Abraham was coming back from the slaughter, it was a slaughter. See how Yahushua gonna be? It says, who is this with clothes coming from Basra, with clothes dyed in red? It's talking about Yahushua, man. All right. So the same way Abraham was in that spirit at that time. So, and the king of Sodom went out to meet him, and that was Bera. He went out to meet Abraham, so he was ready to give him everything he got. And it was like, can you give me my soldiers back? Thank you for helping me out. Damn, Hamites, they needed our help. And he was like, can you give my soldiers back to me? And I'll give you all this wealth and riches. Just had everything taken, man. Nobody want nothing from them. But and the king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return from the slaughter of Kedar Laomer, and of the kings that were with him at the valley of Savah. All right, Wait, it'd be right here. Okay. Shavah, which is the king's dale, and which, that's like it. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High power, and that was Yahushua. So Yahweh sent Yahushua, man, to deal with Abraham, and he gave him bread and wine. All right. And Abraham gave a tenth of the spoils that he won in the war. He gave that to this king, Yahushua. He tithed to him. All right. Now, so Melchizedek, all right, Malak Kazadak, all right, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High power, and he still is the priest. Okay. It says, and he blessed him and said, blessed be Abraham, Abraham, all right, Abraham, of the Most High power, possessor of heaven and earth. And blessed be the Most High power, which have delivered thine enemies into thy hand. And he gave him tithes of all. So Abraham tithed to this priest, high priest, Yahushua. Yahushua is going to be a priest forever, according to the scriptures. And it shows that the Lord can deliver us, and the angels are going to be in the midst. All right. So this is a picture from the catacombs of Rome of Abraham. All right. This is a painting, a depiction from the catacombs, as you can see right here. Screen froze up, so I'm going to leave it there, of him about to sacrifice Isaac. All right. Of course, it's been a little bit whitewashed, but you see the afro. All right. It's supposed to represent Abraham. And you can do some research on that as well. All right. The catacombs of Rome. Just give you a visual. All right. Let me read this real quick. This is Hebrews 7 and 1. For this Melchizedek, right? This talking about Yahushua at the time, which means king of Salem, right? King of peace. Priest of the Most High power. See, even today, it's still the high priest in the heavens, who met Abraham returning from the slaughter of the kings and blessed him, to whom also Abraham gave a tenth part of all, first being by interpretation king of righteousness, and after that also king of Salem, which is king of peace. So he's both. All right. First he's king of righteousness. Now he's the king of peace, making peace between the nation of Israel and Yahweh. Without father, without mother, without descent. All right. He was an angel, having neither beginning of days nor end of life, but made like unto the Son of God, abideth a priest continually. See, but he was still the son of Yahweh, but he still had no earthly parents. All right, at that time. But later on, he was born through Joseph and Mary, through the seed of David, Joseph, you know. But at this moment, he was sent just like any other time, just like during the time of Daniel. And they said it was somebody in the fire with Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, who was known as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, in the furnace dealing with Nebuchadnezzar. And they said it was someone in there like the Son of Man that joined them. It was a fourth person in there. And he looked like the Son of Man. All right. So he didn't need to have flesh. But anyway, it says here, so he had no parents, this king, this Melchizedek, that Abraham met and paid tithe to in the middle of the night. Just like us today, in the middle of this night, we offer up spiritual sacrifice. Now consider how great this man was, unto whom even the patriarch Abraham gave the tenth of the spoils. See? For verily, they that are the sons of Levi, who receive the office of priesthood, have a commandment to take the tithes of the people according to the law. that is of their brethren, though they come out of the loins of Abraham, right? But he whose descent is not counted from them received the tithes of Abraham. Because this was Yahushua, this was the Messiah, man. And blessed him that had the promises. All right. And Yahushua can give those blessings from Yahweh. And without all contradiction, the less is better, is blessed of the better. All right. That's why Yahushua told Abraham, told those people that before Abraham was, I am. Meaning he's better. He was before all things. All right. He's the light, that light of all men. And that's why John said it. Yakanan, who was even Elijah, he said, this man whose shoe latches I am not worthy to unlatch. All right. So the less is better. Blessed. The less is blessed of the better. All right. So Melchizedek. All right. For he was yet in the loins of his father when Melchizedek blessed him. To my Levi. If therefore perfection, well, I ain't gonna get too further, man, because that's the point, No, I'm gonna skip down. 14. For it is evident that our Lord sprang out of Judah, of which tribe Moses spake nothing concerning priesthood. And it is far more evident for that after the similitude of Melchizedek, there ariseth another priest. All right, so my Yahushua, man. All right, so Yahushua was raised up, spirit of the prophet, subject unto the prophet. He was raised up the high priest to be the high priest in the beginning and in the end. All right, Ecclesiastes 3:15. That which have been is now, and that which is to be have already been. And Yahweh requireth that which is past. All right, same thing he required back then is the faith, and he required it in the end, faith. Those that call in the spirit of faithful Abraham, they're going to be delivered by the same Melchizedek, Yahushua. And moreover, I saw under the sun the place of judgment, that wickedness was there, and the place of righteousness, that iniquity was there, right here on the earth. All right. And I said in my heart, Yahweh shall judge the righteous and the wicked, for there is a time for every purpose and for every work. Okay, so it's Isaiah 9:5, because it was a battle called the Battle of Siddim. But now you can imagine how this battle went. They was fighting straight up with knives and swords and, different instruments of war, garments rolled in blood. But the Lord said what? Isaiah 9:5. For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. So Abraham was old in age, was up in age, but he was considered a warrior, man. All right, they talk about Abraham like he was some old frail man. No, he was a warrior. And the Lord raised him up and activated him like he's going to activate his elect. And they're going to be hunters. Same way Abraham was hunting down Lot and destroyed those Mesopotamians. Isaiah 9:5. For every battle of the warriors with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. But this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. So that same faith is going to be tested, but it's going to be in the midst of a different type of war that we see today. All right, World War III. This is John 8:58. Yahushua said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, before Abraham was, I am. And I don't mean he's saying he's the Most High. Damn idiot vocab. No, this is why Yahushua said that. He's saying before Abraham was, he is, meaning the less is blessed of the better. All right, Abraham was lesser than Yahushua, Melchizedek. All right, so this is Romans 8:31. This is what should be learned from this lesson. Is this right here, Romans 8:31. What shall we say then? What shall we then say to these things? If God, Yahweh, be for us, who can be against us, man? All right, that's what we got to understand. So if the Lord is with us, who can be against us? Even Abraham, through faith, he did this. All right, because he said what? That's why I read that earlier in Genesis 12 and 8, where it said Abraham built an altar there, and he called upon the name of Yahweh. This is Proverbs 18 and 10. The name of Yahweh is a strong tower. He didn't need no damn building. He didn't need no temple. He was moving around, building tents and building altars. All right. And even now, we have no continuing city. We don't have no place to go and visit. Over there in Jerusalem today, there's some fake Jews in their fake temple, which is really called the Tower of Antonia, that Herod used as a siege against Israel. So it says, the name of Yahweh is a strong tower, and this is more proof of it. The righteous runneth into it, and it's safe, man. All right, but the rich man's wealth is his strong city, and as a high wall is his own conceit. Look at the kings of Mesopotamia. Look at Esau today. Look at Egypt with the Pharaoh. That was their strong city, was their safety. But look what happened to them. All right, and the people that trusted in it. So the righteous runneth into it and are safe, man. So we trust in the name of Yahweh. And today, the access to Yahweh through the high priest, Yahweh Shah, his son. All right, let's get back to the story. I'm going to finish it off here. This is called the Battle of the Vale of Siddim, or the Battle of the 9 Kings, okay? It was the early second millennium, and it was known as the First Biblical War. So this is Genesis 14 and 19. And he blessed him and said, blessed be Abraham, the Most High, Abraham of the Most High, possessor of the heaven and earth. And blessed be the Most High power, which hath delivered thine enemies into thy hand. And he gave him tithes of all. And the king of Sodom, here we go again, these damn Hamites, Bera, right? You know, they were looking bugged out in the face. And the king of Sodom said unto Abram, give me the persons and take the goods to thyself. Basically saying, give me my soldiers back, and you can take everything we got. And Abraham said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted up mine hand unto Yahweh, the Most High God, the possessor of heaven and earth, that I will not take from a thread even to a shoe latchet, and that I will not take anything that is thine. That should stick out, right? Revelation 13. All right, New World Order. Lest thou shouldest say, I have made Abraham rich. All right, and when you just had Yahweh Shah looking him right in the face, giving him bread and wine. So save only that which the young men have eaten. All right, so he's saying what? And the portion of the men which went with me, Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre, those other nations that had Abraham's back, let them take their portion. And that's like Yahweh Shah, man. He gonna say, no, I don't want nothing. That's what Yahweh Shah said, man, to the devil. You know, he said, bow down before me. He said, no, he rebuked him. Because he knew, Yahweh Shah knew that he was going to be ruling in these last days. All right, he's going to give everything to the ones that are confederate with Yahweh Shah, which are the elect, the 144 and the 1/3 of Israel. All right, so I'm going to get one more scripture and end it with that. 2 Peter 2 and 9. The Lord knoweth how to deliver the godly out of temptations, and to reserve the unjust unto the day of judgment to be punished. All right, shalom.